Is Babu Owino fit to represent the youth, to represent this new generation?
When the Gen Z protests were quite heated and the parliament has been breached into, he's one of the guys who joined the Gen Zs on the other side.
Remember there's a time he shot a DJ and that became an illegal issue, and as a leader it's illegal. So what do you think about that?
Welcome to the Hot Bench, and this is the bench where we get to discuss matters politics. I'm going to be your host. They call me Kasabos.
And this is your co-host, Auntie Kita. Welcome and subscribe to the channel, Street Vibes TV. This is where all your matters are listened to, as we are waiting for 2027 elections. So you're welcome all, and don't forget to subscribe.
This is going to be the channel where we get to make sure that we are steadfast in making sure that we are in the right route heading to 2027 elections. It is a political talk, it is a political scene, and we want to discuss matters Kenya, matters politics, and matters the generation in place, and that is the Gen Zs. So today we're going to be having a very influential young man in the streets. This is a guy who has been in study for law. Right now he is working with a law firm. He will tell us more about himself. But before he joins Kenya School of Law come next year, he's going to make sure that he walks us through the journey of what it means to be a young Kenyan who understands the law and who understands what is rightfully supposed to happen in his life when it comes to matters governance, matters administration, and matters politics. Welcome, make sure you subscribe, as my co-host has said, and let's get the party started. As we had promised, today we are having a very interesting guest. This guy is a lawyer, but is he already a qualified lawyer? We are just about to get to know. So, welcome to the Hot Bench. Today we are talking matters ngumu sana, and I will really want you, first of all, to introduce yourself so that the Gen Zs, the millennials who are watching our show, and even all the other people who wanakuja hapa kuwatch show, wajue tuko na nani leo. I'll hold them.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, a very interesting question. Am I a qualified lawyer?
A qualified, are you?
I say I am a qualified lawyer. I think the more appropriate question would have been whether I am a qualified advocate.
Okay.
Because there is a clear distinction between an advocate and a lawyer.
What is the difference?
The difference is an advocate is a lawyer who has advanced their studies from their campus LLB program to the advocates training program, which then offers them several qualifications, such as representing clients before a court of law. They have a seal with which they can legally, kind of commission documents, legal documents, and any other legal instrument.
The reason as to why I asked you, the reason as to why I posed whether you are a lawyer or not, whether you are qualified or not, is because we don't get to see young people like you being termed as lawyers. So see, it's truly offensive. That's but I had already told them that we're having a lawyer in the house. So feel welcome. This is a show that we really want to talk to the Gen Zs. We want to keep the fire burning. We want to make sure that come 2027, we are really up, guided, na atuja lose focus. And today I'm having a discussion about who is the Gen Z leader? According to you, who is our Gen Z leader?
Okay. I think that's a very pertinent question. First of all, it would be correct to say that we do not, at the time, necessarily have a Gen Z leader per se. And I have two reasons to support that conclusion. First of all, is the recent conduct by whom the persons who have put on the face of Gen Z leaders over the last 1 or so years. Because some of the notable figures here would be someone like Kasmoin Makore. There is a certain sister of Morara Kebaso. There is another one who has already declared her intentions to run for the Mathare MP position in 2027. I'm not sure of the name, but she works with the Mathare Justice Center. Those are some of the people we would term as people who fronted themselves as, faces of Gen Zs. But for most of them, they have actually kind of portrayed themselves as people who cannot at the time be trusted. They cannot be trusted with bearing the Gen Z vision. For example, with Kasmuel Makore, who until very, very recently, probably a month or so ago, he had changed tune and, he joined the Youth League of ODM, a party that we believed has contributed to a very large extent to the misery that this country has seen. We've seen people losing lives because of the demonstrations they've organized. Of course, we cannot ignore the benefits that have come from them lobbying and having demonstrations, because we've seen government policy changing as a result of some of those demonstrations. So we cannot 100% discount what those demonstrations have done, but we also have to remember the cost at which they have come with, the death of the people, and that death is never accounted for, orchestrated by the state. Of course, we have freedom of the media being curtailed, violence against journalists.
Fearless, leaderless.
Yes.
Where has it taken you guys? Where has it taken us? We are all Gen Zs here, right?
Yeah.
Where has it taken us?
It has taken us to not so far, if we were to count the tangible benefits that we may have derived from all this movement from last year. I would say this because, for example, and maybe if I just mention one of the benefits that we have accrued from the demonstrations that occurred last year, is that we have now brought some sense of awakeness to the Kenyan people, where they are now more aware of the rights and the powers that they hold as the citizenry. Because we came from a point where we thought that all the government does, or whatever the government wants, must happen, no matter the benefits or detriments it has to the citizens. But from the demonstrations, we can actually see that we have a more responsible government now. We have a more legally sound and cautious representation, where before they push any agenda towards the citizens, they are careful, but most importantly, they back that agenda with probably some justifiable reasons.
Does that mean that the broad-based has achieved something? Because I think from the Gen Z's Mandamano, that's where we got to have the broad-based government, and from the few things we're talking about, the changes that happened, as much as we are saying it's about the Gen Zs, because remember, you don't have representation. Nobody aliwaongelelea huko. So I believe it's the broad-based government that is doing this.
I would want to look at it from two different points. First of all, we cannot run away from the fact that this broad-based government may have achieved some sense of peace and calmness within the nation, even though I would say, by being fair to the broad-based setup, it is a setup that resulted from the Gen Z demonstrations, but it has no Gen Z element in it.
To the other side of my co-host.
Okay, so for me, I can pose a question to ask you. I've heard you mention several Gen Z leaders who can represent us. So for today's pose, I'm asking, what makes you think that Babu Owino may be suitable to be the Gen Z leader?
Okay, first of all, I may have mentioned a few names who, last year had fronted themselves as possible leaders of Gen Z. But I mentioned very clearly that they failed the test. They failed the test because they very quickly changed tune and joined the very government they were fighting before. For example, then the clearest of these examples is Kasmuel Makore, for example, who joined ODM and as the youth wing. So, and I think that justifies my point that we do not at the time have someone we can actually trust.
On this point, before we run away from this point, let me ask you, are you bitter when it comes to these guys who are on the forefront, fighting for us, for example, joining the institutions that are in government. For example, let's say the ODM is a party, right? How do you want them to fight for your rights if they are not in these parties? How can you be able to fight for someone's right? Because we know logically, yeah, we can all go out there, picket, to fanya nini mandamano, but it is through maybe representation of MPs and all that, that we get to have people to really fight for our laws. You understand? Yeah. And by the end of the day, somebody like this, Samuel or something, this guy is in the has joined ODM, right? I think through ODM he has now a chance to actually actualize what he thinks should be done, because he has now a chance to maybe become a member of parliament and probably do something. Before we actually continue, I wanted you to kindly clarify, mbona kuna uchungu na watu kujoin parties?
Okay, first of all, it must come out very clearly, I am not bitter against any of those guys. I understand in their human persuasions, it is possible for them to look at the short-term benefits that come with joining the government. That is something anyone, even us seated in this bench, would do, even if they are given that opportunity. The question that we have, which does not in any way demonstrate bitterness, is the fact of what some of them have done after joining those organizations or those political setups.
But these are young people. They might be thinking this, then they get there, they find this, then they have to change from this to this. But of that, I'll give you a time to come back to that. Let's get to her question. Ameuliza.
Yeah.
Is Babu Owino fit to represent the youth, to represent this new generation?
Okay, so looking at Babu Owino as a person and even as a leader that we have seen now over the last 2 terms in parliament, he's a leader who comes off as a voice of the people. So to just very shortly answer your question, in the absence of any alternative, we would look at Babu Owino as a character that would represent the vision that the Genzs had when they went to the streets.
He is new in the game. He doesn't carry the old ile ya kitambo. He's very fresh in the game. This is a young man. During this protest, he was able to actually not fear, but actually join the Gen Z. Nilimwona pale anaruka the gate, the parliament. And it's a very risky move, because remember this time, as much as you are on the side of the people, you are not sure of the feelings. You might risk, and they don't care which side una play, because everybody was really like on the MPs, why are you doing this on this time where we don't want this to happen? He comes out again as a guy mwenye, even after ODM has joined, he has clearly said that he can't work with Ruto. He doesn't believe in what this president has. He has also said clearly that hata mambo ifanyike nini, baba akienda, babu anabaki. And that gives me a picture of a young man who really wants to be in the game. But who is he going to lead? Is he going to lead the new generation or the old generation? We are having a new generation. You are here, you're saying that Babu Owino is a character that can be really emulated by the Gen Z. Do you think all the other Gen Zs who are watching this are with you when it comes to believing that he's going to he can be that representation? Okay.
I do not want to take the position of speaking on behalf of all the other Gen Zs. I'm simply expressing my opinion as to why as to why I think Babu Owino actually stands out of the current crop of leaders that we have. And the reason I say this is because and it comes in fact even as an example from what you mentioned. When the Gen Z protests were quite heated and the parliament has been breached into, he is one of the guys who joined the Gen Zs on the other side, and they did not fight against him, despite the fact that the entry into parliament, by the way, would have demonstrated that they were willing to fight everyone in that parliament. And that is built from his character as this person who comes out to fight for the people. I'll give you the clearest of examples. On Friday, Babu Owino was admitted into the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And for the first time, as one of his first acts as a newly admitted advocate, he went to Nairobi West prison and secured the release of at least 200 people or so to say.
Yeah, I saw the numbers. It was like at first ilikuwa 40, so I think it went up to 200.
About 200. And what that tells you is there are so many advocates who had been admitted on that particular day, so many advocates who have been admitted as leaders probably even before, but he made that move and he gave the reason to be and you know that he wanted to secure these releases as a way of helping the people who had been behind bars to access justice. There may be an argument that he may have done that for political reasons, which I can fly to some extent, but I think the fact that he was able to do that, the fact that he was able to get out there and fight for the vulnerable.
Plus it's also a smart move by the end of the day, because it is politics, and as much as there is somebody who is gaining from that move, I think it's a good one. Just to mention it, you have a question?
Despite Babu Owino being outspoken of nature and also being bold, remember there's a time he shot a DJ and that became an illegal issue, and as a leader it's illegal. So what do you think about that?
Okay, I think this must have happened in 2018, DJ Evolve situation. And I would say two things. First of all, and my arguments in all these setups should not be taken as if I know Babu Owino or I'm defending him. I do not know him as a person. But we rely on the things he has done that are in the public eye, that, you know, to make some of these conclusions. To come specifically to your question on the DJ Evolve issue, we must kind of depart from the ordinary and the medieval reasoning that by becoming a leader, a person kind of rises to a position of an angel, a faultless person, and come to the reality that these leaders that find themselves into this office, having been elected by us, are people in the first place. They are people who are subject to emotions. They are people who, you know, can be carried off by emotions and end up doing things that they regret later. What we need to look at more keenly probably would be what he did after all this tragedy that struck DJ Evolve. And it is now out there that Babu Owino already, the case between now Babu Owino and the state involving DJ Evolve was resolved through a consent, and he was able to, in the whole transaction, in fact, Babu Owino was in a position to pay up to about 55 or so million to just facilitate the treatment of DJ Evolve. DJ Evolve may not come back to the status he was, but at least the fact that this person paid all these hospital bills and they concluded a consent, the fact that there was a consent, it means at the end of the day, both parties that were warring at the time kind of came to an agreement. And the fact that he was able to, without any, benefit in between, having to incur all these 55 million, kind of hospital bill and the like, shows you that it's an expression of goodwill. He may not have intended to 100% harm, but the harm happened, but he has done something at least to rectify the harm. We've seen so many other MPs or any other people in in leadership positions who do treacherous things to people, and they don't, they don't in any way compensate, they don't in any way get involved in the recovery process of the victims they harm. So the fact that he does that kind of sets him apart in terms of the current crop of leaders that we have. Yeah.
That's a very beautiful question from our Gen Z pia. Huyo ni Gen Z, tunasema yeye ndio mdogo kabisa hapa. Actually now amemaliza high school, get into university, and we want to have the future crop of the country here with us, so that pia atakuwa natupatia some of her thinking. Now, Babu Owino has been rated the best performing MP this year. And I can really tell that you have some passion of love for him, and that's your opinion as you said it, and you find him very, as an outstanding leader. Him being number one, what do you think about that?
I think some of these attributes are always interrelated. Mm-hmm. I think that because Babu Owino did not become the best performing member of parliament, having secured additional resources from the government. Mm-hmm. He has worked for the best interest of his people in Embakasi East, using the very same resources and the same amount of resources as have been, given to all other members of parliament. So the fact that they have all been presented with the same amount of resources, but he still finds a way to deliver and become one of the best rated members of parliament tells you that he is simply an embodiment of what he speaks to us about.
And before that, actually, he was positioned too. So that means this is a leader mwenye we can say that akona future. Now, back to her, for example, umelete your story, DJ Evolved. I think it's a negative part, and I think he has neutralized it the way he can. Maybe just to ask you, wewe ni a new Gen Z. Naweza sema not a new Gen Z, you are a Gen Z, but who is now coming to the new world, whereby sasa unakuja kwa the political scene. You're going to be voting in 2027. We are asking about the leaders. And today, Babu Owino was one of our questions. We have heard of a Gen Z who is already in the game. What about you? What do you think about Babu Owino becoming the next leader of Gen Z? Is it something for you, ungekuwa like, yeah, I want this? Or do you want a leader emerging from nowhere to become your leader? I'll hold it for you.
Okay, thank you. Well, Babu Owino is a digital savvy. That means is a social media personnel, of which most of us Gen Zs we like. As in, someone who is more in social media, we can communicate easily, especially under this platform known as X, the former Twitter. Yeah. And again, Babu Owino is also bold. His boldness is what we want as Gen Zs, because he can speak for us and make us to be heard. He can be a good representative and speak for many of us. Yeah.
I've asked that question because before we had this, I tried to make sure that at least nimeuliza watu wengi, what do they think about which leader can we put as a representative of Gen Z? A lot of people are talking about Babu Owino. And I want to pose a question also to the ones who are viewing us. What do you think about Babu Owino? Is he that leader that una feel anafaa akuja to represent akwe leader wa Gen Zs for the future generation? And what are some of the things that ungeza penda a cut off? Asking you that, I'll take the question back to our lawyer. Uliwambia jina, by the way?
I'm not sure.
We started the show and we forgot actually. That's how bad we love this show. That shows how bad we love this show, right? Yeah, by the way, you can tell us your name because he will be coming here. He will be our lawyer in terms of getting to kuelewa vitu. Like the next episode we're going to be shooting, it's going to be about Finance Bill 2025 and he will come well prepared. What's your name, my brother? Sorry, you didn't say that.
It's okay. It's okay. You've mentioned something about the fact that we got right into it tells you, even without getting to the names are not important, but the content of what we present to the people. But
that is a lawyer speaking. For sure, that's a lawyer speaking.
My name is Dedan Shadrach. I am currently an advocate in training. Having graduated from Mount Kenya University with a bachelor's of laws degree. In my life in the university, I was of course a student leader who, of course, I am this person who as a leader comes from the people's perspective. So I sometimes found myself at loggerheads with the school administration because of advancing the people's interests. But currently I am working as a trainee lawyer at Anjarwala and Kana LLP.
Umeweza bado hujaweza kutoa watu juu hujafika hiyo level bado, si ndio?
Yes,
but
yes.
Kwa zile kesi umeweza kuwako, umeweza kupata watu wameweza kuwin their cases. Because niko sure hata kama uyuko una represent lazima kuchini ya maji, there are a lot of things that you are doing to make sure that the case inakuwa on your side.
I think just to answer that question comprehensively comes to my background as to why I chose to do law. Personally, I chose to do law and because it is something that I wasn't supposed to be anyone else but a lawyer. It may sound as a very restrictive thinking about things, but and this may probably even explains in my introductions, I say I am a lawyer by calling, but by profession, meaning I was called into the profession first, even before I trained for it. And this comes even, back as 12 years, when I was 12 years old, is when I discerned and, knew that I'm going to become a lawyer. Because for me, my interest is justice.
You guys, do you lie a lot?
We do not lie a lot.
So this guy tells me he has a calling of becoming a lawyer. We tend to believe lawyers mnadanganya sana. I also believe he's a Christian. But we're going to be engaging more on those kind of discussions, because remember, this is your first day and we are welcoming him here, right? Every now and then to talk matters these. So today it has been a nice day. We have talked about Babu Owino, and hata sisi tutatafuta Babu Owino, and maybe one day you're going to sit here and Babu Owino next. And then we're going to have some castigation of what is really happening. So we are delighted for being around with us. We are hoping that the next show you'll be coming, utatuchambulia mambo ya finance bill. Tuone kama this 2025 tutaingia streets ama tutakaa nyumbani. So I'm Kasabos, the host of this new show inaitwa The Bench, and I'm really happy that umekubali wito wetu na ukakuwa hapa. Big up also to your farm. Umesema inaitwaje, the one you are currently working under?
I'm working for Anjarwale and Kana LLP. It's located in Westlands.
In Westlands. Yeah. Big up yourself. Those are really chilled areas, and you can see even our talks tunazifanya in a very chilled areas. I hope that inakuwa kitu poa. Just to conclude, maybe my co-host, the youngest we are having. Mkiangalia huyo ametoka shule jana. And this, wewe ndio utapiga kura 2027. Tunataka kujua asira iko kiwango gani ama iko pande gani, tuangalie vizuri. We make sure that you choose the right leaders. Conclude it for us, and also I'll give vote of thanks.
I go by the name Anjikita, the co-host. Welcome for watching our channel. We kindly ask you to subscribe and don't forget to share and also like. The next episode you're going to have is about the finance bill. So make sure you follow us. Thank you. Out.